we looked at customers in the markets we were looking at, and number two, our own supply chain, right? So one, I think the basic idea of Vahdam was very simple, that, India is this amazing land of products, ingredients, teas, spices, herbs. All of this are mostly agricultural, if you now think about it, and agriculture being one of the largest employers of labor, probably the largest employer of organized labor in India, if you combine everything. And across the board, right, the products we were looking at, tea, spices, herbs, so on and so forth, the biggest issue was, when you speak to those people, was that their prices was not going up, right? Their prices were not going up. And because of that, their lifestyle, their livelihood had not upgraded, right? People here, brands had made billions of dollars of revenue globally. But the teas where they used to get it from, the farmers, that community was not flourishing by any means. So that was number one, very, very clear. And we said, let's do this. Number two, when we started researching on our customer, which was basically, this customer in America, Europe, all these Western markets, developed markets, there when we went deeper with them, we realized an inner urge in them to buy products which are sustainable and ethical and, which give back to the value chain, right? It was very, very clear. And now we are seeing it in India with people our age and millennials and all this new age group coming in. But that time India did not have that. But America, what I realized, genuinely, somebody who's not even earning that much, right, probably very near to minimum wage, will pay a premium for a product which is giving back to the value chain. So we realized that these customers we are targeting to are genuinely concerned about a brand which can do more than just making available high quality product, right? So that was the second learning. And basis this, the second learning coming in, just blending in well with the brand, right? We said, I think that's an incredible opportunity to build a brand, probably scale it up, but definitely, create value and help some of these people and, make available a better brand for these consumers. Everything used to come down to education. So all of them were actually working hard so that they could educate their child better, because they realized that if they are not educated, they will always remain in the tea industry. And tea industry, because there were no brands, will not flourish. That's how they're seen for the last 100, 200 years since the Britishers came. All of that we can take help from. So that was the number 2 point. And finally, we decided on Teach Me, where we said on our third Founders Day, this is exactly almost 3.5 years back, that, we will allocate 1% of our revenue towards the education of our tea growers' children. And that time, the model was very simple. And there was this image that, digital education is only for the privileged. Yeah. And that made me start. And, I remember forwarding it to my sustainability officer we had hired by then. And that same day, this was within the pandemic, we had a chat and we said, why? Honestly, if there is anything they can do, anything which we can do to actually democratize education, is actually digital education, because, there is honestly no real cost of distributing it for the person providing that service, right? And if we can convince them, I think it could be an incredible story. Within 1 week, we had spoken to the seniors founders at Byju's, where we said that Byju's will basically give us access, 100,000 academic program access to 100,000 people. And we at Vahdam, instead of only funding those 2,000, 5,000, 10,000 rupees academic fees, we will use that to implement and, get these courses available to the children of tea workers children across the regions where we work, right? And it worked beautifully. It was a win-win-win for everybody, Byju's, us, and of course, most importantly, the farmers and their children, right? Which is crazy. I mean, if you really think about it. So that was the next step in the Teach Me journey. And since then, of course, the last 1.5 years, we are basically now doing bulk tie-ups with big groups like Goodrick, Jayashree, bunch of estates to basically start distributing this. I think 3 or 4 digital education centers, which are run by Vahdam in, say, a Gumti tea estate, a Gopaldhara tea estate, where what happens is the kids can come and there's a common device and they can study from there. Right. So we basically created a common place where they can, start studying. So bunch of those things happening, where we have now, I think, reached over 12 to 15,000 children. Create impact as a company, and sustainable impact can be created if your intrinsic business is also doing well. So let's do well by doing well, and like your personal things you do for charity or a lot of those personal things, at business, let's very, very proudly talk about it also, because then more people will get to know, it will expand, and that's how the cycle works. So today, if you talk to people here, this has become a part of what we are, right? So it started off with me, and, even I had some understanding direction But obviously we were trying to figure out things. Then we got a chief sustainability officer, which was very early on in our journey, right? We didn't even know if people had this position. But we said, just giving that position will tell people the weightage we give to something like this internally, right? But now, right from marketing, marketing of course plays it because they are customer facing most, and revenue. I think there, everything we do, right? When we launch a new product, when we do any internal activity, I think it's all being driven by, at some level at the back of it, like, how can we be more sustainable, right? When we make a drinkware, why should we make a certain drinkware which can be used 200 times? Why? Whenever we do new packaging, we're not perfect. We have packaging which has a lot of packaging to keep the tea fresh. And this cycle, this snowballing effect will not come if our product is intrinsically not good. So can't compromise on that till there is technology to support that product. So all of that is there. And, but it's driven by the leadership, no doubt. But I think it's now intrinsically a part of the culture also. Let's recycle more plastic than we use so that we are not a burden on our earth, right? That's broadly the discussion we had. Chose one NGO who could help us do it. And even there, we went slightly deeper, plastic, a lot of people talk about plastic recycling, but, a lot of people don't know this, but you need to collect each and every wrapper of plastic, because if it's not collected properly, right, then there are multiple issues in recycling, right? So single-use plastic was actually the biggest concern. So we identified somebody who was doing that, right? Got them on board. And then of course we basically invest in a budget to get all that recycling done. Similarly, climate neutrality, which was driven by the fact that we are an e-commerce company, right? Every time somebody orders, unlike 100 customers coming to a store, we go and deliver to everybody's house. Even though we are playing in markets where delivery is way more optimized, which basically means there is density of deliveries, which means if you're going to a certain pin code, Amazon is delivering, they will deliver 20 parcels in that colony, not pin codes. But then we said we need to offset our carbon footprint. So because this we had no solution to. Right? We could have put off the electricity. We were doing all of those things, but if you compare that to our overall carbon footprint, I mean, it was minuscule. We did all of those smaller initiatives internally, but we said, we have to become climate neutral. So it became a part of this initiative where, they had this plan. We struggled to calculate our, to be very honest, our climate, but these guys were a certification body. So we said, if they are doing it and they're doing it for brands like Allbirds and some of the bigger brands in America, we said we can trust there. So till we got they approve our offset every year, right? So at least there is a maker checker piece there, and then we invest in renewable energy, deforestation and stuff to buy those gold standard carbon footprint points. One of the core principles was the product quality needs not to be compromised. That's the premise of everything we do. Within that, we've started looking at everything, right? And I think the most important thing in packaging is wasted packaging, right? How can we minimize that? Anything which is absolutely not necessary to be a part of the experience, how can we minimize that? Small example, our tea bags have tag and thread in that. We are now launching a range of products where we don't have a tag and thread. Because a lot of people can just use a spoon to dip the tea bag, dip it and take it out, right? So small things, right from our operations up till, our packaging, tea bag being one of the fastest growing categories in our business. I think that's how we have looked at, we had on our tea bags, we had an outer plastic protect seal on our tea bags, right? That we removed 1.5 years back. So we went with paper, we package it better, we put instructions so that people in stores in America can handle it better, but we could remove that. And we now hopefully plan to do that for our gifts as well, right? Right now we do have a protective layer, which adds to packaging, but small things like that, as a business we are looking at. So long list, which we want to now execute on next year.